It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sheikh Sultan, Imam of the AUS Masjid. And after this citation, Dr. Zahir Zantut will make us the honor of reading the English translation of the verses.
وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Those who eat riba will not stand the day of resurrection, except like the standing of a person beaten by shaitan, leading him to insanity. That is because they say trading is only like riba, whereas Allah has permitted trading and forbidden riba. So whosoever receives an admonition from his Lord and stops eating riba shall not be punished for the past. His case is for Allah.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our Chancellor, Dr. Peter Heath, for his introductory remarks. Dr. Heath.
Good morning, faculty, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, students. I would like to welcome all of you, especially our guests from outside, to the American University of Sharjah, especially on behalf of His Highness, our President at the University, His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Mohammad al-Qassimi, member of the UAE Supreme Council, ruler of Sharjah, and as I mentioned, the President and founder of AUS. I know that many of you have traveled from the US, Europe, or even as far afield as Australia, though I think Australia is about equidistant to some parts of the US, to participate in this important conference. And I bid you welcome. I can see a comparison in your own field, how Islamic finance has become one of the fastest growing financial sectors in the world markets. During the recent financial crisis, the inherent ethical foundation of Islamic finance helped it to handle the impact better than many other systems. We all know that banking institutions based on Islamic business practices have flourished over the past 40 years, expanded dramatically and flourished. However, the corresponding growth in academic research in this area of banking remains inadequate. This conference is about connecting banking practice with academic research. Seldom do we see practitioners of Islamic finance sitting together in the same conference with our academics to discuss issues pertinent to both. And this is part of the goal of this university, to join practice and theory. It's a very, very exciting field. It's a very important field, and AUS is very proud to be hosting this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Heath. Our first panel session on the challenges faced by Islamic finance in the aftermath of the financial crisis, the practitioner's perspective, will be moderated by our provost, Dr. Thomas Hochstetler.
The title of this session is The Challenge Faced by Islamic Finance in the Aftermath of the Recent Economic Crisis. Sitting here with me on the dais is Mr. Parvez Siddiq, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Nur Takaful in Dubai. Next to him is Mr. Rushdie Siddiqui, who is the Global Head of Islamic Finance and OIC countries for Thomson Reuters in New York in the United States, who's come a long way. Next to him is His Excellency Sheikh Mudassir Siddiqui. They tell me they're not related, although they have the same last name, who is the President and CEO of Sharia Path Consultants and is a member of the Sharia Standards Committee of the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. And next to him is Mr. Sohail Zubairi, whom I have not met, but welcome, Chief Executive Officer of Dar al-Sharia Legal and Financial Consultancy, a very important organization in Dubai. So I'm going to start off with a question for our newest arrival. What caused the financial crisis? I've given a very broad gloss, but were Islamic financial institutions taken unawares by the financial crisis, or were they fairly well positioned to weather it, and how have they done since?
Well, a lot has been written on how this financial crisis started. The money should not be treated as a commodity. This is what we have learned from scholars, and how true it is. You can see every day we pick up the newspaper and we see that recession is getting deepened in Europe. Europe is the worst affected territory from this crisis. And few don'ts that I would like to repeat here is that, first of all, money cannot be a commodity. So money cannot be on both sides. It has to be on one side. The second principle, golden principle of Islamic finance, is that you cannot trade in debts. So, for example, murabaha or any deferred payment trade transaction, you're not supposed to sell it to a third party and get the cash before the maturity. So you have to hold on to that till the maturity, because that is exactly what Sharia allows. And short selling, Islam does not allow short selling. Short selling was rampant just before the crisis, and that's how it brought the whole world down.
Could I ask, if Sharia principles had been more widely applied in the conventional banking community, particularly in the West, could the crash of 2008 have been avoided? And what kinds of things might have helped to ameliorate it?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem. The crisis which took place was not really just a financial crisis. It was a result of the moral and ethical crisis. The way we dealt with money, the way we dealt with debt, the way we packaged things. There is a verse in the Holy Quran which says, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Those who measure things wrongly. When they take something, they take it in full measure. When they give it in half measure or less than full measure. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. Don't they think of the hereafter? That when you give something, take something with full measure and give something with less than a full measure, don't you think that you will be raised once again? And then you will be answering to your deeds. So one of the areas where we don't have this is where to translate this principle into tight regulations. As far as the Islamic finance is concerned, it was affected. The crisis was not created by Islamic finance, but we are part of a global economic system, so we were affected. And I must also go further and say and warn our brothers and sisters that there are some areas in Islamic finance where misuse can take place. For example, there is no upper limit on how much you can charge as a murabaha markup, as you have in usury. So I have seen murabaha with 40% interest or markup rates. There is no limitation on how much you can leverage. So if I have $1 million dirham, instead of buying just one house for myself, I'll buy 10 houses or 20 houses with 5% down. There is no Sharia rule at this time to control that kind of practice. Even though the contracts will be ijara or murabaha or musharaka contracts, but with 5% you can buy 20 houses.
But let me ask you, if there were a musharaka contract, why would someone, a lender entering into such a contract, take up such a contract? I mean, knowing that the borrower was so overextended. Aren't there already some built-in regulations, internal correctives?
No. At this time, there are none. And borrowers and lenders normally will enter into this kind of contract because they're thinking that this building, which is not even built yet, sometime you are buying apartments off plan on a 10th floor of a building which does not even exist. They're thinking that by the time the building is finished, this property, instead of being 1 million, would be worth 3 million. So they are based on that expectation and speculation, they are willing to take a chance. They say just give 5%, and if you default, we can always sell it for more. The borrower, on the other hand, is thinking that my property will be worth a lot, and once it is built, I can sell it. So with just 5% down today, I can sell it for double the price that I have committed to borrow.
It sounds like a bubble to me.
Yes.